The autumn wind whispered through the maple trees lining Sycamore Street as Sarah Mitchell watched her parents' taillights disappear around the corner. At 16, she'd finally convinced them she was old enough to stay home alone for their anniversary weekend. Well, not entirely alone. Max, their 3-year-old German Shepherd, stood faithfully at her side, his tail wagging as she scratched behind his ears. "Just us now, buddy," she murmured, closing the front door against the October chill. The evening passed uneventfully. Sarah ordered pizza, worked on her history paper, and FaceTimed with her best friend Emma until her phone battery ran low. By 11 p.m., the house had settled into familiar creaks and groans, the kind that only seemed noticeable in the late-night silence. The weather forecast had warned of storms, and right on cue, fat raindrops began hammering against the windows. Sarah drew the curtains tighter, grateful for Max's solid presence as he followed her upstairs for bed. Thunder rolled in the distance as she went through her nightly routine, face washed, teeth brushed, pajamas on. Drip, drip, drip. The bathroom faucet was acting up again. Dad had promised to fix it next weekend. Sarah ignored it, too tired to care. Max circled 3 times at the foot of her bed before settling down with a contented sigh. As Sarah drifted between wakefulness and sleep, her hand dangled off the mattress out of habit. The first warm, wet touch against her fingers was almost expected. Max always did this, licking her hand as if to say goodnight. The repetitive sensation was soothing, and Sarah felt herself sliding deeper into drowsiness. Drip, drip, drip. The sound seemed louder now, more intrusive. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block it out. The licking continued, slower now, more deliberate. Something about it felt different, but her sleep-addled mind couldn't quite grasp what. A particularly loud crack of thunder startled her fully awake. The room illuminated for a split second in harsh, white light. In that brief flash, Sarah noticed the empty space at the foot of her bed, where Max should have been. Drip, drip, drip. The bathroom faucet was becoming impossible to ignore. Grumbling, Sarah sat up, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. "Max?" she called softly. No familiar clicking of nails on hardwood answered her. The hallway was darker than usual, the storm having knocked out the usual glow of the street lamps. Sarah fumbled for her phone, using its dim light to guide her way. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of darkness visible through the gap. Drip, drip, drip. Sarah pushed the door open, the hinges protesting with a long, low creak. The beam from her phone caught something swaying gently in the darkness above the bathtub. As her light traveled upward, Sarah's world collapsed into a nightmare. Max hung from the shower rod, his body limp and lifeless. Dark liquid dripped steadily from his fur into the pristine white tub below, each drop echoing in the tiled space. Drip, drip, drip. A sob caught in Sarah's throat as her phone light revealed more horrors. The bathroom mirror was fogged, despite the cool air. Words had been traced through the condensation, the letters still fresh and running. "Humans can lick too." The phone slipped from Sarah's numb fingers, clattering to the floor and plunging the room into darkness. In that moment of blind terror, she became acutely aware of the wet, shuffling sounds emerging from the hallway behind her. The same sounds that had been coming from under her bed all along. Heavy breathing, not quite human, filled the small space. Sarah's legs trembled as she felt warm, moist air against the back of her neck. Something long and wet dragged across her shoulder, leaving a trail of saliva in its wake. The last thing Sarah heard before the darkness consumed her was the soft, wet sound of a tongue sliding over teeth and a low, gurgling laugh that had never emerged from any human throat. When Sarah's parents returned Sunday evening, they found the house silent and still. Only the steady drip, drip, drip from the bathroom faucet greeted them. That, and the lingering smell of copper in the air. They say on quiet nights, if you listen carefully on Sycamore Street, you can still hear the sound of dripping. And sometimes, if you're very unlucky, you might feel something warm and wet against your hand in the dark. But whatever you do, don't assume it's just your dog, because humans can lick too.